unquote border czar. Vice President Harris was not a border czar.
Meantime, Vice President and border czar Kamala Harris facing some backlash.
What he said about Harris and immigration was not true. She was never appointed border czar.
And this will be her first visit to the U.S.-Mexico border region since she was appointed as the border czar by President Biden.
People are going to have to counter the misinformation. You already hear folks talking about the border czar. She wasn't the border czar.
President Biden tapped Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, to be the border czar.
Now, she wasn't the border czar. That's what Republicans labeled her.
They were very critical of Kamala Harris, especially in her role as border czar.
Now what she's up against is folks lying about her border record, calling her a border czar.
Kamala Harris, who was appointed as the border czar.
The Biden team didn't declare her the border czar. They wanted her to work on kind of the root causes of immigration.
There has been so much criticism against Kamala Harris. You know, she was the border czar.
Calling her sort of the border czar, which wasn't necessarily the case.
So the border, if they weren't planning to address it in a major way, do not make her your border czar. She met with some of the Northern Triangle countries, but nothing has effectively changed.
You don't distrust the media enough. In this video, I want to kind of review the track record of the mainstream media, right? As you saw from the intro, the mainstream media is not coming out here and saying that Biden did not name Kamala Harris as border czar. He tasked her with addressing the issues driving migration from El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala. U.S. border security is the Homeland Security Secretary's responsibility. Mostly false. And this is not, like, to me, fact checkers are not independent. They're not unbiased. It's a lie. Home of the Truthful-meter, independent fact checker. You're not an independent fact checker. How do I know this? Well, if you're new to this channel, I have pointed out numerous times how not Democrats, journalism is the most liberal profession in the world. Survey says that only 3.4% of the U.S. journalists are Republicans. That means 97% of journalists in journalism is liberal Democrats. And these same liberal Democrats are the same people sitting here trying to fact check people claiming that Kamala Harris is not the border czar. As you saw from the intro, before Biden dropped out, because now it's politically inconvenient for Miss Kamala Harris, to be associated with the border. And many people see it. Look at the games. Remember, journalism is a left-wing profession. 97% ideological dominance. That means journalists are in an echo chamber. This is from Greg Foreman of the Black Conservative Perspective. The liberal media is rewriting Kamala's history so they can fact-check GOP attacks as false. Pathetic. Breaking. GovTrack just deleted their 2019 page that ranked Kamala as the most liberal of all senators. It would be a shame if it was made viral. And then these same people will get mad of why Republicans are more likely than Democrats to say fact checkers tend to favor one side, because fact checkers do. And I made my case. I showed you my evidence. Only 3.4% of journalists are Republican. You can't expect partisanship from a profession that's 97% ideologically, politically dominated by one side. And it's no wonder you guys get a bunch of fact checks wrong. It took Snopes, I think, 7 years to finally put a fact check on the claims that Donald Trump was saying that Nazis and white supremacists was good people. 7 years. It took them fact checkers to correct themselves. And they wonder why trust in the media is especially low between people under the age of 30. I fit in that demographic. I'm 28 years old. Adults under 30 now trust information from social media almost as much as national news outlet, because it's the same ish. Just because you have a little teleprompter on the screen doesn't make your information less credible or more credible than my information here on the internet. And that's what people are starting to understand. Right? There's surveys that came out a long time ago. I forgot. I think it was Axios that spoke about it, about how trust in the media is in an all-time low since 2023. And then they doing all these finagling. Oh, let's delete someone's record to benefit us now politically. And then they get mad when conservatives call them propagandists. New fact checker PolitiFacts has issued a fact check stating that the claim that Kamala Harris was a border czar is mostly false. This is called propaganda. True. Despite Harris being known as the voter czar, as previously reported by Axios, Fact Check for PolitiFacts has decided that they need to help Kamala win the election, so they're deciding to gaslight and rewrite history. How can you trust an institution that will do this? 97% dominated by the political party of Kamala Harris, deleting evidence that is inconvenient for her now politically. Americans, nobody should be blindly trusting mainstream media anymore. No one should be blindly trusting journalists anymore. There's no such thing as an objective journalist. There's no such thing as an independent fact checker. Everyone have their bias. And the most honest thing a journalist can do is to be upfront with their bias. That is my argument. So if you want to come in my comment section, call me biased because I openly express and tell you that I am a conservative and I'm looking at it from a conservative perspective, that's your business. But at least I'm not someone like these people in the mainstream media who sit here and pretend that we're just calling it down the middle. We're just stating the facts. But they conveniently leave out facts that are inconvenient to their narrative, such as Joe Biden using the terminology border czar, right? Let's play a little bit of it.
I've asked her, the VP today, because she's the most qualified person to do it, to lead our efforts with Mexico and the Northern Triangle and the countries that help. We're going to need help in stemming the movement of so many folks stemming the migration to our southern border. So this new surge we're dealing with now started with the last administration, but it's our responsibility to deal with it humanely and to stop what's happening. And so this increase has been consequential. But the vice president's agreed, among the multiple other things that have her meeting, and I appreciate it, agreed to lead our diplomatic effort and work with those nations to accept the returnees and enhance migration enforcement at their borders.
Enforce migration enhancement. What does that mean? Right? It's the argument I gave before. If I gave you, hey, here's your job description. That sounds like I'm an engineer. No. You're not the engineer. This is just your responsibilities. When people say borders are, we know exactly what they mean. Even Axios. Oh my God, the internet's forever. And you wonder why we trust the internet more than we trust legacy media. Because you can't just delete it. You can't just delete facts that's inconvenient to your narrative liberal journalist, which is majority of you, by the way. Literally as far left as it possibly can go. They're trying hard to erase the internet. LOL. Clown world. And you expect us to just trust you. And then they get mad when, doing your own research can lead to misinformation, disinformation. Misinformation, disinformation only means you know something that's inconvenient to our narrative. That's the only thing misinformation, disinformation means, especially if it comes out of the mouth of a journalist. Axios. Like, it's so ridiculous, right? But God forbid, you criticize Kamala Harris, you attack Kamala Harris, you got these liberal operatives called journalists, called propagandists like Joy Reid, claiming that the Trump administration is just the only thing they can attack Kamala on is with sexism and racism, which is another lie they like to do. Like, they trying to, here's the game they're trying to play. They're trying to control your perception of reality, right? Because if you have a belief about something and you vote based on that belief, they don't care about you voting based on the facts. They care about you voting based on a narrative. And that's the game they're trying to play. They're trying to get you to convince you of a narrative so that way you vote accordingly to how they want you to vote. And that is not the job of the journalist. The job of the journalist is not to control perception. The job of a journalist is to inform the people so the people can make perceptions, can make judgments on themselves. And this is the fight that we really have going on currently. This is why young people trust the internet more than they trust mainstream media, because essentially it's the same thing, except you just got a $1 million budget behind you, while some people are just going out of their room and just speaking the same thing. But I digress. Let's see a clip of Joy Reid, and you're gonna see the difference. I'm gonna put the first clip is gonna be Joy Reid trying to frame everything about race and sex, because that's the only reason Joy Reid's voting or supporting Kamala Harris, because of her race and sex, but she has the goal to call you racist and sexist if you criticize her. And the next clip, you're gonna see a guy criticism of Kamala Harris. And notice how the guy's not even going to mention her race or sex. He's just going to mention her abilities. Let's take a look.
What do you make of the way that Republicans have followed Donald Trump's lead in just the tone of their attacks, not just on you, but also on the vice president?
They're running very scared. That's what I think. They're running very scared, and they have nothing else other than racism and sexism. And so when you have nothing else, unfortunately, you just appeal to the racists among us, the white nationalists among us. That's all. The reality is that Kamala Harris, Vice President Harris, is qualified, and oftentimes she's, underestimated, but she's an overachiever. And that's why I have wholeheartedly endorsed her. And it's unfortunate that individuals are just amplifying racism and sexism. And it's totally inappropriate, and I will not dignify it with a response.
Kamala Harris is inspiring and very capable. The more people get to know her, they're going to be particularly impressed by her ability.
The nonpartisan GovTrack has rated you as the most liberal senator.
I am prepared to get rid of the filibuster to pass a Green New Deal. There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking.
Would you ban offshore drilling?
Yes.
What is the solution for voters in the fossil fuel industry?
Giving the workers an ability to transition. We're not going to treat people who are undocumented across the border as criminals. That's correct.
Raise your hand if you think it should be a civil offense rather than a crime to cross the border without documentation.
Abolish ICE.
Yeah.
Is that a position you agree with?
And we need to probably think about starting from scratch.
Outdated, it is wrong-headed thinking to think that the only way you're going to get communities to be safe is to put more police officers on the street.
Would you support changing the dietary guidelines?
Yes.
The food pyramid, what people
yes.
to reduce red meat specifically.
Yes.
People who are convicted in prison, like the Boston Marathon bomber, on death row, people who are convicted of sexual assault, they should be able to vote?
I think we should have that conversation.
We have to have a buyback program, and I support a mandatory buyback program.
So for people out there who like their insurance, well, they don't get to keep it.
Let's eliminate all of that. Let's move on. I am opposed to any policy that would deny any human being public health, period.
The more people get to know her, they're going to be particularly impressed by her ability.
Pathetic, right? Pathetic. This is pathetic. You saw the clip. Oh my God, the Republicans, they got nothing to run on. They can't wait. They can't beat her on policy. They only could criticize her because of her gender and her sex. Sorry, her gender and her race. And then I show you a clip of how Republicans exactly did the exact opposite of what they stated. Because at the end of the day, this is what they do. They look, you could say 70% of the base have substantive attacks on Kamala Harris. And the mainstream media, instead of focusing on the 70%, which is the majority, they focus on the 30%. It's the same thing they do with black on black crime. They don't focus on that at all. They focus on white on black crime. Oh, look, oh my God, hate crimes. But then if you tell them, oh, what about black on white crime? Oh, we don't want to look at that. And it's a bigger mess than white on black crime. If you look at the rates of interracial crime, black people are the biggest perpetrator, regardless of whatever race you match them up with. Black people are the biggest perpetrator of crime against other races of people. But the mainstream media want to sit here and give you a perception that, oh, no, it's white supremacy that's the problem in this country. It's white violence. Only white people can do everything. Ask the Asians. I just saw a video, and maybe someone can co-sign me or you could disagree with me here. I just saw a video where an Asian basketball team was playing basketball with some kids. It looked like AAU or some like rec league game. And the Asian kid stole the ball from some black kid, and the black kid pushed him on the floor. And then they started, obviously they get in a little tussle, and another black kid came and stomped the Asian kid on the head in a basketball game. Bruh. But let that black kid have been white. You would have seen it all over the news. And this is why people trust the internet more than the TV, is my statement. You should trust the internet more than the TV. How can you trust an organization, a profession like journalists, when they're majority dominated by the left? 97% are Democrats, right? Do I have to show it again? Do I have to show it again? Only 3.4% is journalists, and only right-wing articles and news outlets are willing to point out this information. U.S. adults under 30 now trust information from social media almost as much as the national news outlets. Now, legacy media like to say, oh no, YouTube, you need to monitor your content and only push out authoritative sources. But these authoritative sources like Axios, right? Axios will be claimed an authoritative source, are stating misinformation openly, saying that the Borders Are title, which was never actually that Kamala Harris never actually had the Borders Are title. The readers themselves, we, the American people, have to hold them accountable now because we can't trust them to hold themselves accountable. Fact checkers. The Republicans says that fact checkers favor one side. Democrats don't believe that. Look at the chart. It's pretty split. Almost 50% of Americans think that fact checkers favor a side. Republicans definitely think that. Independents, is in the margin of error. 47% of independents believe that the fact checkers do tend to favor one side. Only 29% of Democrats think that. I wonder why. Oh, no, it's objective. We're just saying the facts. Democrats, y'all some dishonest people. Axios previously reported on April 14 and March 24, 2021 that Kamala Harris was appointed as border czar. Harris appointed by Biden as border czar. President Biden is putting Vice President Harris in charge of addressing the migrant surge at the U.S.-Mexico border. But now in 2024, because right now the border is a big issue that's hurting Democrats. They don't want their precious Kamala to be tied to the border. They're trying to everything they can to distance it, deleting her record, rewriting history. Trump comes out, oh, she's dangerously liberal. They delete the article where Trump is basing this add-on from GovTrack, and then they could write a piece saying, oh no, it's false. Kamala Harris isn't the most liberal senator in 2019. I'll end off the video with this. Evidence is too dangerous politically, financially, and psychologically for some people to allow it to become a threat to their interest. To their interest. What is the journalist's interest? What is the interest of a profession 97% dominated by one political party? A questioning mind wants to know. I'll repeat the quote again. Evidence is too dangerous politically, financially, and psychologically for some people to allow it to become a threat to their interest or to their own sense of themselves. Hey, America. This is why I don't trust the mainstream media. This is why I do my own research. This is why I have to cross-reference their sources. Because they say, oh, I verified with 3 sources, and those 3 sources are all liberal news outlets. This is why they all end up repeating the same line, the same narrative across different channels. Because they all reference the same sources. Because 97% of them are of the same political ideation, the same worldview. And it seemed like their job is not to inform you, but convince you of their worldview. And any evidence that goes contrary to that, whether it be climate change, whether the viability of their candidates, whether their candidates' records that most Americans perceive as bad, they'll run cover for them. And you're surprised why this profession covers Trump? 87% of the news that come at Donald Trump is negative. Of course it comes negative. Most of the profession is Democrats. They donate to Democrats. They are Democrats. They are liberals. Of course Trump's going to get 87% negative news. And you wonder why a lot of normal people who are not into politics have such a hard level of Trump derangement syndrome, to the point where I just saw a story where a dude ran over an 80-year-old man because he's putting up Trump signs in his yard. Imagine that. And then the left has the gall to say political violence comes from the right. From your propaganda arm? Of course you're going to say that liberal profession. No one should trust journalists anymore, at least not blindly. We all should be skeptical of journalists. We should look at journalists like they're a known swindler, because that's what they are, information swindlers. But I digress. Let me know your thoughts about it in the comment section below. Do you trust the mainstream media? Do you don't trust the mainstream media? I'd like to know your thoughts about it in the comment section below. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I appreciate you guys for watching to the end of the video, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.